Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Welcome to our new offices. This last year, things grew so much we ended up moving into a warehouse, and this is our new set that got designed and built by our buddy Rick Rube. He's my design buddy. I used to always say, WWRD, what would Rick do? So he decided to build a set for us. We've had such a fun time building a place, not just to shoot the EDU, but some other videos we're going to do. So as you can see, each corner will have different video shoots able to happen. And it's amazing how busy things have been because there's so many places that are looking forward to the coming of the Lord. Specifically, this last week we were in Branson, West Missouri, had a great time at Living Word Church. The people were so excited, so expectant about the coming of the Lord. It amazes me how when it hits people, how close we are. This weekend, if you're anywhere near Denver, Missouri, we'll be there at Lone Star Baptist Church Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. So we'll get used to shooting a little different and coming to you every week. Why did we start doing the EDU? We started doing the EDU because there's so many things that point to the coming of the Lord, and specifically the gathering of nations for the Ezekiel 38 war. Something happened this last week we'll get into in a minute, because the rapture is signless, but the second coming has tons of signs. So some things happened this week. The players literally for the Ezekiel 38 war came on the scene, but we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, let's back up to what's happening in Israel. So wild to see the Jews were allowed to go back up on the Temple Mount. They carried some Israeli flags. The Palestinians went crazy because they had Israeli flags there. And of course, the Palestinians had Palestinian flags up there the day before. This is a big week, though. They're celebrating in Israel 75 years. This is like Independence Week, all week. They're having really cool things were read by the Western Wall. And, of course, the Palestinians can't stand it because last week was Ramadan. So once that was done, the Jews were able to get back up on the Temple Mount. So people were arrested and all that. But there's so much happening that over the years of doing the End of Days Update, literally in the last 2 weeks, I saw things happen that completely kind of freaked me out, blew my mind. So as you get into this, the players for the Ezekiel 38 war this week, yesterday, met. Turkey, Syria, Russia, Iran, all four of them met together in Moscow. Guess what they met for? It was about getting more ammunition for Russia. Russia's going to get 300,000 bullets from China. Russia's going to get like 1.5 million shells from North Korea. I mean, it's crazy. You had Iranian ships coming through the Caspian Sea delivering ammunition for Russia. Now, Russia is like one of the biggest, actually the biggest landmass country there is, and it's having to get all this ammo and all this stuff from other places. Now, what's wild is you have leaders of nations acting out psychotically, like literally before World War II, like China. We're going to go in and kill Taiwan. We're going to take Taiwan back. Russia, we're going to take Crimea. We're going to take the Ukraine. It's this psycho mentality to take land over. In the midst of that, China's leader wants to come in and make peace for the Ukraine and Russia. In the middle of that, those four leaders that met that are basically the setup for the Ezekiel 38 war, their whole deal was about rearming. Not one thing was mentioned about, hey, we got to stop war. It's all about massive arming building up. And you had the USS Character Nimitz was in the South China Sea. It did a U-turn, came all the way back to get over by Taiwan. Because it was by Thailand, and then it's going to come back to kind of show support to keep Russia from China from going into Taiwan. So you got things happening every single week that's crazy. You have a satanic temple, largest gathering ever, going to be up by Boston. So you've got the dark side's getting crazier and crazier. And so Iran's going to help Russia's invasion now with 300,000 artillery shells. So it just kind of blows my mind that Russia is going to actually come down on Israel, and it's having to beg its way through getting more shells and more information and stuff from all these other places. So you had a cyber attack in Israel this last week, the last couple of days. It hit one of the newspapers, hit a couple other real important places. So Israel's been having really big cyber attacks almost every single week. So we're watching the setup for what's going to happen just after the rapture of the church. I mean, it is one thing after another. Probably the big thing when you see the players for the Ezekiel 38 war come on the scene, specifically with Turkey firing into Iraq, firing into Syria. You had another shelling of Israel into Damascus again. That's happening almost once weekly. We had 5 of them happen 3 weeks ago in 1 week. So you've got everything being set up for what's going to happen after the rapture of the church. So Jesus wanted to know what time it was. He said, okay, he talked to the Pharisees, he said he rebuked them. He said he rebuked them many times, but the people he only rebuked one time over not knowing the season. He said, you can tell what the weather's going to be, but you don't know your hour of visitation. So Jesus wanted them to know, and you had a whole tribe in the Old Testament called the tribe of Issachar that had an understanding of the times to know what the children of Israel should do. So if you had a whole group in Israel, one whole setup to find out what they're supposed to do, that's how important timing is. Because I had a guy tell me, Joe, you preach on the coming of the Lord, just get everybody's hopes up. Well, duh, that's right. It's called the hope that purifies us, even as we're pure. So the cool thing for the church is being a voice and a witness right before the coming of the Lord. People go, where do I fit in? Man, you talk about a time to fit in. You're watching the end of the church age set up right now for Jesus to come right back. So this is our season to go for it. So we always go back to the Word. You know, our new book that came out, we have about 79 or 80 signs in there. We always go back to the Word because the signs are in the Bible. This is the best witnessing tool you have. It's the authenticity of the Bible. That in Isaiah 46, verse 9 and 10, God said, I'll tell you how you can tell I'm God. I'll show you the end from the beginning. I mean, Ezekiel prophesied that when Israel will be regathered, exactly happened on the date. Gabriel told Daniel the exact date of the first coming of the Lord. So we look at the signs to bring us peace. Number one, Jesus said, the generation that sees Israel regathered and Jerusalem won back. He said that generation won't pass away till all is fulfilled. So that's happened in our lifetime. But then you got the Hebrew language restored. You got the Ethiopian Jews brought back. You got the fertility of the land of Israel. You got the revival of the Roman Empire. You have the Temple Mount Institute that's ready to start having sacrifices. The guy, one of the head guys, got arrested just a few weeks ago when they tried to have a sacrifice on the Temple Mount. Several different groups along with that main group. So then you have 170 different species of predatory birds start showing up in the land. That's pretty amazing to see nature get in position. You had foxes show up on the Temple Mount. Fish show up in the Dead Sea. You had the Dead Sea turn blood red on the Day of Atonement this last year where Sodom and Gomorrah was. That's absolutely over-the-top radical. So you have so much more. You had Bishop Malachi in the year 1129 AD. He had a vision of every one of the popes and the coat of arms they would have right before the coming of the Lord. 114 popes is what he saw. The pope we have today is 114th. That pope 3 weeks ago said, there is no such thing as hell. So you got crazy doctrine. You got nations getting into position. You got animals getting into position. So what's the church do? We are to engage. We lock in. We go to church more. The Bible says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, as some would do, especially as you see the day approaching. So we see that day approaching with all the information that we have about how close we are. It just presses us to come to church more, help our local church, help our local pastor, be engaged. Don't fit church into your life. It is your life. You have many more signs. You got men will be lovers themselves. You have selfie sticks now. I mean, as crazy as that is, then you have the planets would be for signs. Genesis says that the planets would be for signals for us. Psalm said the heavens declare the glory of God. So you had the blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles. That's a pretty big deal to have heavenly signals on Passover and Tabernacles. He died for us. He's going to come back and tabernacle with men. He died for us. He's coming back. When's the last time you had 4 in a row like you had just recently? NASA called it a tetrad. The last time you had 4 in a row on Passover and Tabernacles, 1967 when Jerusalem was won back, 1948 when Israel was made a nation, 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion when the Jews were kicked out of Spain. So remarkable to have heavenly events coinciding with things happening with Israel. Then you had the Bethlehem star. You had Jupiter, Regulus, Venus come together literally at the birth of Jesus. Constellation was Virgo. A few years ago, NBC Nightly News said we have a celestial event, Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus together. You had Regulus do retrograde motion, crowned Jupiter. Amazing. Bethlehem star. When's the last time that happened? 2,000 years ago. What was the constellation? Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. So right now in the earth, you have everything happening that the Bible said you'd see just before the coming of the Lord. So let's go for it. We are in Bible days. This is it. Let's get as many people saved as we can. Let's have a hustle mentality. Let's have a 2-minute warning mentality. This is not an escape theology. This is a hustle theology. I believe you'll make the Lord happy. You'll put a smile on His face by getting His message out and warning people that the King is about to come back. Just as Enoch did, just as Noah did, the last day church has to just as well. Have a blessed, wonderful week. Get our book, End Times Made Easy. Man, it'll help you with the charts in there. It'll help you see where we are in time. It'll strengthen you. It's all about having great hope and great joy. For the Christian, there is no bad news. You're seeing a lack of hunger, but that's about it. But for the world, it's a very scary time. So let's get the message out as quickly as we can. Colleen and I want to thank all of our partners, everyone that helps us. Thanks for praying so much. Thank you for all your financial support. We're trying to do everything we can to get the message out as much as we can. I believe we'll all be able to do it right here for the coming of the Lord. Have a blessed, wonderful week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the edu at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.